like that. Ganesham sings with Radha, who enchants the eyes of Sri Krishna. Now, the following pastime, containing some glories of roses in Krishna's pastimes, is from Vidagdamadava, Act 2, by Rupa Goswami. He actually goes into great detail, great poetic detail. So if you have a copy of Vidagdamadava, you can read the whole detailed pastime there. I'm just going to summarize it as it is, but like a summary. So one day while Rupa Goswami was writing Vidagdamadava, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu suddenly appeared in his kutir, his bhajan kutir. And the Lord inquired from Rupa, Rupa, what kind of book are you writing? So Sri Rupa Goswami, he held up a palm leaf that was a page of the manuscript of Vidagdamadava. And when Lord Chaitanya saw the fine handwriting of Rupa Goswami, his mind was very pleased. And being pleased, the Lord praised the handwriting there in Vidagdamadava by saying, the handwriting of Rupa is just like rows of pearls. Famous. The handwriting of Rupa is just like rows of pearls. So, in a part of the book, we hear about a place in Vrindavan called Prashkandana Tirtha. Prashkandana Tirtha, which in Krishna's time was famous for its gardens of wild roses. Actually, it was known really as the foremost rose forest, more like a rose forest in Vrindavan. And it's described, Rupa describes it as naturally a very aromatic place. You can imagine walking into a garden of fragrant roses, a very aromatic place. And even today, many gardeners have their flower gardens in this area of Prashkandana Tirtha, here in Vrindavan, where they grow these famous roses, which are strung into garlands for all the beautiful deities here in Vrindavan. So, in Vidagdamadava, Rupa Goswami mentions that at the time of Krishna's fight, he describes it as a battle with the Kaliya serpent, Srimati Radharani and Krishna had not met yet. Rupa says that. At the time of when Krishna fought with the Kaliya serpent, Radha and Krishna had not met yet. But he writes that their attachment to each other was soon to bring about their first meeting in the rose gardens of secluded Prashkandana Tirtha. Now, a note here is that Radharani had just married Abhimanyu, just to increase the intensity of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. It's all on the transcendental platform. Abhimanyu is described as a dull cowherd boy, but he's actually the Krishna's shadow, the shadow of Krishna. Anyway, but unable to restrain her, her attachment to Krishna, she finally expressed her feelings to him in a letter. She wrote a letter to Krishna, just revealing her heart, how much she loves him, which she gave to Lalita and Vishaka to give to Krishna. So those two Sakhis, they went and they found Krishna with Madhu Mangal, who were herding cows with the cowherd boys in a pasture some distance away. And Lalita placed the letter in Madhu's hand, Madhu Mangal's hand, and she said, Varshana's princess has sent this to Krishna. Varsana's princess has sent this to Krishna. So turning to Krishna, Madhu Mangal, he joked, of what value is a letter? Better to have received some sweets. Of what value is a letter? He's funny, Madhu Mangal attached to sweets. Better they gave us some sweets. But Krishna was eager to know what Radharani had written to him. This is all in Vidagdamadava. So he said, Read it anyway, Madhu. So, it's described as Madhu Mangal unrolled the letter. His eyes opened very wide in surprise as he read Radha's letter out loud to Krishna. Radharani wrote, "O dearly beautiful one, the artistic loveliness of your picture is now impressed within my mind. Since you are now living within my mind, wherever I wish to run, being agitated by impressions of you, I find that you, O my friend, are blocking my way." So after hearing Madhu reread the letter, because Krishna said read it again, Krishna thought to himself, particular mood here, saintly housewives of Radha's caliber never transgress strict moral codes. Purnamasi's arranged all this. Saintly housewives of Radha's caliber never transgress strict moral codes. This letter must be a sign of great love, therefore. So Krishna was actually happy to receive such a letter, but he pretended to be disinterested. He pretended to be disinterested in front of Lalita and Vishaka. So he said, "Madhu, why should I, who am averse to even hearing about women, be polluted by the conduct of such a loose girl?" Strong words. "I will complain to the elders of this village about this." He was just, trying to tease Lalita and Vishaka. So taking Krishna's cue, Madhu Mangal, he added very sternly, "O king of the brahmacharis, O king of the brahmacharis, listen. While you reprimand these brazen gopis, I will go to Mother Yasoda and relate everything that has happened here. Beginning with Sri Radha's shameful, irreligious conduct. How unforgivable." Rupa Goswami's. So Krishna added, "Actually, Radha has never seen me, nor have I seen her. This letter must be intended for some other cowherd boy who has captured her heart." So at this point, Lalita and Vishaka, they couldn't believe their ears. What was Krishna saying? So Vishaka, so sweet, she said in a very appealing way, "Krishna, by the same power with which you lifted Govardhan Hill, you have stolen the heart of a saintly gopi, a gopi who now appeals to you and to no one else." And Lalita, she chipped in, "Krishna, you are the happiness of Braj." I love that. "Krishna, you are the happiness of Braj. How can you make this poor girl suffer?" So Krishna, in the same mood, teasing everyone, he replied, "My Brahmana friend Madhu Mangal does not tolerate any deviation from the path of piety, girls." So Lalita was dumbfounded. After all the sweet smiles, Krishna had actually sent Sri Radha's way, Purvarag, before they meet. Purvarag means there's loving pastimes going on, but it's mostly glances. As Krishna leaves Nanda Gaon to take care of the cows with Balaram, he passes by the gopis and there's these sidelong glances. Krishna looks at Radha and Radha looks at Krishna. So after all the sweet smiles Krishna had sent Radha's way, how could he be so indifferent? How could he be so indifferent? Lalita was just dumbfounded, thinking like this. So visibly upset, Lalita and Vishaka just stormed off. Now here's the interesting thing. Suddenly, Madhu Mangal, he had a change of heart. We don't usually hear like that. He's Krishna's little Brahmin cowherd boy, and So suddenly Madhu Mangal had a change of heart. And turning to Krishna, he said, "Krishna, Radha obviously adores you. Why didn't you reciprocate with her love? Why did you say things, how did he put it, that will build a staircase leading to the top of a mountain of regret?" Such poetry. So pausing for a moment, Krishna replied, he had a change of heart too. "My dear friend, you are right. It was cruel of me to mock her. And reflecting on his misbehavior, Krishna concluded that he had gone too far. And he thought, oh, upon hearing of my cruelty, moon-faced Radharani, she might turn against me, or she might even give up her life. So Madhamangal, he said, what do we do now? So Krishna replied, there's only one thing to do. Answer Radharani's letter with a letter of my own. So Madhu kind of looked around, he said, well, what will you write a letter on? So Krishna replied, with the help of rose petals, having turned her away, their scent may help bring her back to me. He said, with the help of rose petals, I'll write her a letter. And having turned her away, their scent may help bring her back to me. So Madhamangal, he clapped in approval. And he said, then, why don't we go to nearby Prashkandana Tirtha? I described it earlier, a forest, roses. And Madhu said, that those roses will be very happy to serve your purpose. Again, remember, everything in Braj is personal. Love reigns supreme in the spiritual world. There's so much love because everything is personal. So he said that those roses in that forest will be very happy to serve your purpose. So meanwhile, Lalita and Vishaka went to explain to Sri Radha how Krishna had dismissed her letter. And as she did so, hearing these things, tears flowed down Sri Radha's cheeks. So Sri Radha said to Vishaka, of what use is it then? Better that I drown in the waters of the Kaliya lake. Better I just drown in the waters of the Kaliya lake. Even though Krishna has rejected me, the hostile and insatiable hope to attain him still burns within me. O mind, she's addressing her mind, O mind, the deep water of the Jamuna, the sister of the king of death, Yamaraj, is my only shelter now. Wow. So off they went to the Kaliya lake. She's thinking, Vishaka's hoping she won't do it, but this is just a mood that Vrinda and Purnamasi have set for that day because they establish all these pastimes in the morning, every morning in Vrindavan. So on the way to the Kaliya lake, they passed by the rose garden, Prashkandana Tirtha, because it's actually in that area, at which, they're coming to this beautiful flowering rose forest. And Vishaka tries to cheer Sri Radha up by saying, Sri Radha, can you smell those beautiful roses? Let's pick some to make rose water. So they stopped. And lo and behold, just at that moment, Madhamangal and Krishna arrived with their plan to become specific here, Rupa says, to press rose petals into oil to use as a writing material for a love letter to Radha. To press rose petals into oil to use as a writing material, substance, ink, for a love letter to Radha. Now as Madhamangal and Krishna approached the garden, they saw Radharani along with Lalita and Vishaka. So what they did is they stopped and they hid behind a tree to listen to what these gopis were talking about, these three gopis. And watching very carefully, they saw Sri Radha suddenly raise her arms, her hands into the air, saying, "O Krishna, O killer of Putana, is it right of you to have forced me into becoming so much attracted to you and then to neglect me?" So turning to Vishaka, she said, "Perhaps I'll just die of grief. If so, Vishaka, please do one thing for me. To observe my funeral ceremony, place my body with its arms embracing a tamal tree, like creepers, so that I may remain forever in Vrindavan, undisturbed. This is my last request. My last request. But then Radharani paused and she thought, but if I die, I will never see Krishna again, whose face is like the moon, she was thinking, and who enchants the three worlds. So at this point, her heart suddenly filled with a longing for Krishna. And she said, friend, will you kindly show me his picture again? So Vishaka said, but Shri Radha, I have no tools to paint here. How can I draw you a picture? So sitting down in the pose of a yogini, Srimati Radharani, she sat down in the pose of the asana, like a yogini. She said, then I will make him appear by my meditation. I will make Krishna appear by my meditation. Now, seeing Radha in this desperate situation, Krishna could no longer restrain himself. And he stepped out from behind the tree, his hiding place, which was pretty nearby. And seeing him, Vishaka was pleasantly surprised. And smiling, she said to Shri Radha, my dearest friend, I think you should open your eyes now and taste the fruit of your meditation. Open your eyes now and taste the fruit of your meditation. So Srimati Radharani opened her eyes and she just gazed at Krishna before her. She was mesmerized. And Rupa writes, she whispered to herself, "O my broken heart, good fortune has truly smiled upon you and made you whole again." Addressing her heart, made you whole again. So Krishna was just about to take Shri Radha's hand when a terrible voice pierced the air. Who could that be from? It was Jatila, Radharani's mother-in-law, who's always trying to find Radha and Krishna together. Jatila, running up through the rose bushes, screaming, "What is Krishna doing here? What is Krishna doing here?" Now, seeing this very quick change in the plot, this turn of events, Vishaka thought, just as the chakora bird was about to drink the sweet rays of moonlight, a mass of dark clouds has covered the moon. So coming forward, Jatila said to Krishna, "You rascal, why have you come here?" And Krishna replied, "For the same reason as your daughter-in-law, to appreciate the beauty of these roses." And seeing this all unfold before her, Shri Radha said to Vishaka, "Oh my friend, after such a long time, I finally had the chance to enjoy pastimes with Krishna. But alas, wicked fate has used this old lady as an instrument to stand in my way. How cruel, how very cruel, how cruel, how very cruel." So then Jatila just grasped Srimati Radharani by the arm and said, "Come, daughter, spend not a moment longer with this rascal Krishna." And the two quickly departed for Javat. Leaving Shri Radha, the only option to continue writing letters to Krishna. So the acharyas say that, I was reading, Radha is very fond of and expert at writing letters, especially love letters to Krishna, a fondness that has earned her the name Patra Lekhika. Patra Lekhita earned her that name. So Rupa Goswami recorded this first meeting of sorts of Radha and Krishna at Prashkanta Dhanatirtha, a most beautiful garden of roses in his illustrious Vigdagda Madhava. Now when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, on his visit to Vrindavan, he actually spent time in Prashkanta Dhanatirtha. Prashkanta Dhanatirtha, he spent time there, which I was reading still overflowed with beautiful rose bushes 500 years ago. Hare Krishna. Isn't that a wonderful pastime? Sri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada Ki. So today we'll finish, as we do, with a beautiful verse from our hero, Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati, from his Vrindavan Mahimamrita. It's Sataka 11, text 66. He writes, O Vrindavan, Shri Radha, decorated with splendid flowers and eclipsing the three worlds, is your beauty. The golden flowering vines are your delicate and splendid limbs. The beautiful lotus is your face. The jasmine flowers are your teeth. The banduka flowers are your lips. The white lotuses are your eyes, and the surrounding twigs are your hands and fingers. Shri Brajabhumi, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jaho. Thank you once again. We'll be back next Friday. I think we'll get a couple more classes with flowers. Let us see. Otherwise, we'll choose another article or item that will help us awaken our love gradually for the divine couple by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Shri Brajabhumi, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki. Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki. Shri Shri Krishna Balaram Ki. Shri Shri Radhashama Sundar Ki. Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani Ki. Mayapur Dham Ki. Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki. Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yajna Ki. Share the mercy. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Vimanandi. Jai Jai Sri Sri Radhe Sham. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back once again to our ongoing series on the glories of our most beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarane. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So first of all, you have to forgive me, I have a cold. And we have a seasonal change here in Vrindavan. We went from winter to springtime very quickly, so got a cold, but I'm determined to go on with this lecture. So we are continuing with our mini-series on stimulation for ecstatic love, a title that Srila Prabhupada gave to chapter 26 of his Nectar of Devotion. This chapter focuses on the stimuli that helps to awaken our love for the divine couple, Radha and Krishna. In our last lectures, in this mini-series, we discussed the role of Vrindavan flowers. In this regard, namely the Kadamba flower and the rose flower. So today we'd like to continue with that same theme by discussing the glories of the lotus flower in Krishna's Leelas. Those familiar with Krishna's pastimes, or even those of his great devotees, will know how often lotus flowers are depicted in such Leelas. For example, Lord Brahma, the first created being in this universe, he's often depicted sitting on a 1,000-petaled lotus. And of course, Lakshmi Devi, the wife of Lord Vishnu, is often shown either standing or seated upon a lotus flower, as well as bearing a lotus in either one or both of her hands. In fact, Lakshmi Devi herself is known as Padma or Kamala, which are both Sanskrit terms for the lotus. And I was reading that the Rig Veda says that Agni Dev, the god of fire, he emerged from a lotus flower. And the Atharva Veda says that the scent of the earth resides in the lotus. I found that. The scent of the earth resides in the lotus. Yaste ganda pushkaram abhivesha. The literal meaning being, thy sweet scent which entered the pushkara. The pushkara. Now, in describing the birth of Chandra, the moon, Shastra also gives reference to the lotus flower. It's very beautiful. I found this as follows. When the east gave birth to the moon, love was the dancer at the feast. The heavens smiled with joy, and the wind scattered the perfumed dust of lotus pollen in the courtyard of the sky. Isn't that nice? Describing the birth of the moon. When the east gave birth to the moon, love was the dancer at the feast. The heavens smiled with joy, and the wind scattered the perfumed dust of lotus pollen in the courtyard of the sky. Now, our Shastras even use analogies of the lotus when giving spiritual lessons. A most excellent example is when Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 5:10, one who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action as the lotus is untouched by water. As the lotus is untouched by water. Now it's a fact, the lotus flower, the stem of the lotus flower goes deep within the water and is embedded in the mud. But if you look very carefully, although the lotus flower is in the water, or in the mud you could say, it's always a little bit above the water, maybe 2 inches. I've seen many times here in India. The lotus flower is a little bit above the water. So we can be in this world, but not of this world, in the same way by practicing Krishna consciousness. Perfect analogy, utilizing the lotus. Now, of course, for devotees, the very best use of the beauty of this amazing flower is when it's used in relation to our Lord Krishna himself. Queen Kunti famously says, as many of you know, in Srimad Bhagavatam 1:8-22, my respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, and whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. Hare Krishna. Now, in Sanskrit, the lotus has various names, like Padma, Rajiva, Kamala, Aravinda, Pankaja, Ambuja, Pundarika, Nala, Vairuha, Bisaja, Bishapushpa, Shaila Udbhava, etc., etc. There's so many names. And from Shastras like Vrindavan Mahimamrita, Braja Riti Chintamani, and Govinda Lilamrita, we hear how many, or not all, of the ponds, lakes, rivers, and other water sources in Braj are often decorated with lotus flowers. There's so many paintings like that, or nowadays photos you can see. And of course, the river Yamuna personified, Yamuna Devi, she's famously portrayed wearing garlands of lotuses and holding lotus stems with the flowers open or sometimes just as a bud. Famous paintings of Yamuna Devi like that, very beautiful. And I found a beautiful verse by the Vaishnav poet Kumban, who we've quoted before, about Yamuna Devi in particular. It's a verse from his poem called Nayan Bar Deko Banu Ta Naya. He writes in this particular verse, my dear friend, look at the daughter of the sun god, who wears a dress made of soft leaves, lotus leaves, embedded with pearls and shells. She holds lotuses which spread happiness on her banks. Kumbhan Das says, O lotus-eyed one, please give me residence on your banks, birth after birth. That's a beautiful verse for becoming a resident of Vrindavan. We can take birth on the banks of the Jamuna River, Kalindi, who is herself an expansion of Vishaka in the spiritual world. Now I found another beautiful verse by Surdas from his poem entitled Yamuna Jagat Udarjani. Yamuna Jagat Udarjani. Therein he writes, O Sakhi, I saw the merciful form of Yamuna Devi, who is most compassionate. The green plants growing in her waters are her hair. Her blossoming lotuses are producing a divine fragrance, which makes bumblebees go mad with intoxication. Surdas says, I pray unto the lotus feet of Yamuna Devi, she who is very dear to the Lord, because of her cooling touch, pleasant waves, and fragrant lotuses. She's very dear to the Lord, because of her cooling touch, pleasant waves, and fragrant lotuses. Now, in my research in Radha Krishna Gunadesha Dipika, Rupa Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, mentions therein many of the different talents of Lalita Devi, Lalita Sakhi. She has many different talents, including how expert she is at making outfits. She makes umbrellas, she makes jewelry, as well as using the stems and leaves of the lotus flowers to decorate the divine couple. It's one of her expertise. She can take lotus flowers, the stems of those flowers, the petals of those flowers, and decorate Radha and Krishna in very beautiful ways. Now regarding decorating the divine couple with lotuses, in the Govindaji temple here in Vrindavan, whenever there's a big festival for the Pratibhu deities, means, as we know, Radha and Krishna were taken at one point to Jaipur, so the devotees installed another set of Radha Govinda deities here in Vrindavan, the same temple, as called Pratibhu. Whenever there's a big festival, these Pratibhu deities of Radha Govinda here in Vrindavan, they hold lotuses made out of pure gold. It's just a tradition they have in the Govindaji temple. On a big festival day, you'll see them holding lotuses of gold. And in Raghunath Bhatta Goswami's temple, Krishna often holds a kamal chadi. A kamal chadi, it means a stick of lotuses. And that stick is made of gold, around which fresh lotuses are strung onto with a thread. Now, I asked the pujaris, there at that temple, where actually in Raghunath Bhatta Goswami's temple, the main deity is the Bhagavatam, which he worshipped. But there's also Radha Krishna deities. So I asked, why on prominent days, why is Krishna holding a stick a golden stick with lotuses attached to it? And they said very, nonchalantly, Krishna uses that stick as a cane whenever he goes to meet Sri Radha. I went, okay. Krishna has a cane when he goes to meet Sri Radha, that particular deity. Wow. Different deities have different pastimes. Now in the Radha Vallabha, Govindaji, and Radharaman temples, there still exists today a traditional way of making dresses from lotuses and their petals. On special days you can go to in those temples and you'll see the deities are dressed in lotus flowers. And these dresses are offered to the Lord actually during the rainy and summer seasons, in order to make the Lord more comfortable with the soft and, it's described, cooling touch of the lotus flowers. Now, it's also interesting to note that according to Vrindavan Mahima Marita by Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati and Braj Bhakti Vilas by Narayan Bhatta Goswami, Vrindavan, if seen from above, like if you're above Vrindavan, Vrindavan it will look like the shape of a lotus flower. The 8 petals of this lotus flower are the 8 villages of the Astasakis, and in the middle of the lotus flower are the villages of Nandagram and Varshana. So in your mind's eye, you can just imagine, like a bird, or you're in a helicopter, you look down, Vrindavan's shaped like a lotus flower. And the petals are the villages of the Astasakis, and right in the middle is Nandagram and Varshana. So beautiful. Now there are many pastimes of the Lord in which lotuses play a very integral part. In fact, so many, it would actually require an entire book, just to name them all. But for today, we'll recount one very short, but very sweet pastime, found in a poem of Surdas. It's called Kamal Ki Chatri. Kamal Ki Chatri. Translated from Brajbasi, it means the lotus umbrella pastime. The lotus umbrella pastime. Now, in our series, we're often quoting Surdas, and rightfully so, because he was a 15th century saint known for his devotional songs dedicated to Krishna. And Surdas is said to have written and composed, listen to this, over 100,000 songs. Many of them have been lost, but fortunately we have a large number. 100,000 songs. And he was born in Vrindavan in the year 1478, and much of his life history is found in a book called Ain-i-Ikbari. It's a Mughal book, written during the reign of Emperor Akbar, who was favorable to the Vaishnavas. Now I was reading that Surdas, he could play a number of musical instruments, and he became the chief singer in the Gopal temple at Govardhan, when Gopal was present there at his temple, hundreds and hundreds, 500 years ago. Surdas, he would sing in the temple there. He was the main singer at Govardhan. And the legendary musician Tansen, who we mentioned in a series a few months ago about Govindaji, Tansen, he was the main singer in the court of Akbar. So one time Tansen, who would often come to Vrindavan, he sang one of Surdas's songs to Akbar. And Akbar was overwhelmed by the melody, by the music, by the poetry, by the mood of that song. So he said, that's such a beautiful song. So Tansen, he's a devotee, he's very humble. He said to the emperor, that tune and the lyrics are those of Surdas. And then he glorified Surdas. He said, kin down surko sar lagyo, kin down surki pir, kin down surko pada lagyo, ben down sakal sharir. That's Bajbas. Very beautiful, listen. This is his glorification of Surdas. Some are hurt by a warrior's arrow. Some are tortured by pain. But those whose hearts are touched by Sur's lyrics are pierced through again and yet again. Wow. Some are hurt by a warrior's arrow. Some are tortured by pain. But those whose hearts are touched by Sur's lyrics, means Surdas's lyrics, are pierced through again and yet again. With what? With devotion, with bhakti. So hearing this glorification of Surdas and appreciating the music and etc., Akbar actually sent an invitation to Surdas to join his court permanently as a chanter, as a singer. But as you can imagine, Surdas famously declined, saying he would only sing for his master Krishna and no one else. Jai Surdas. This is bhakti. He would only sing for his master Krishna, nobody else. Out there at Govardhan Hill. Why would he leave Govardhan to go to the court of a king in Delhi? So in his Kamal Ki Chatri, Surdas begins by writing that Krishna's pastimes are beyond meditation and understanding. A profound statement. Krishna's pastimes are beyond meditation and understanding. Then he poses the question, and how is that so? And he answers the question by saying, because the one who lifted Govardhan hill said to his mother, "Oh Maya, I cannot hold your pots of butter to help you because my wrists are hurting." He lifted Govardhan hill, but he says to his mother, "I can't help you with the pots." Who is this Krishna? Huh? What's going on here? Huh? Krishna's pastimes are beyond meditation and understanding. So then Surdas goes on, he says, because he who dances on top of the Kaliya serpent fears looking at the paintings of serpents on the door of Nanda Maharaja's palace. Because the one who killed the whirlwind demon Trinivarta said to his friends, "My dear friends, I'm afraid of swings. Please do not swing me so fast." Because the one who uprooted the very old and strong Yamal and Arjun trees in just one stroke said to his brother Balaram, "O elder brother, please break the little leaves that are covering these yogurt pots so I can feed my friends some sweet yogurt. Help me, I do not have enough strength to break these leaves." How do we understand the Supreme Lord? Surdas repeats, "O Lord, your divine pastimes are beyond meditation and understanding. You are so amazing." So then, Surdas begins narrating a pastime. That on one of the days that Sri Radha went to worship the sun god at Suryakund, which is actually a very beautiful lake filled with unlimited varieties of beautiful lotus flowers, Sri Radha asked Lalita Saki, "O Lalita, you are famous as the knower of all lotuses. Please describe to me the different types of lotuses that we see here in this beautiful Suryakund." So Lalita took the opportunity to describe the lotuses, but in such a way as to glorify her dearmost friend, Sri Radha. She said, "Yes, Sri Radhe, listen with love, for there are many different types of lotuses present here today. First, there is the white lotus, which is a reflection of your compassion and mercy, on which the bumblebee Krishna, always eager for your mercy, roams around. Then there are the pink lotuses, which are a reflection of your sweetness, opulence, and greatness, on which Krishna, who always hankers for your service, rests upon like a bumblebee. The blue lotuses here are the reflection of your beauty, which takes away all the fatigue of the bumblebee Krishna. The yellow lotuses present are the reflection of your love, which make Krishna, the bumblebee, intoxicated with love and affection for you. O dearest Radhe, all these special lotuses are representatives of your form and are supported by your leaf-like gopis and the lotus stems of different moods." That's deep. All these special lotuses are representatives of your form and are supported by your leaf-like gopis and the lotus stems of different moods or feelings or emotions, bhakti. Now, just at that moment, Vishaka Saki, by the arrangement of Purnamasi, arrived on the scene and said, "Dearest Radha, today Yamuna, Devi, and other gopis have made arrangements for a boat festival tonight with Krishna on an island of lotuses in the Yamuna River." When I read that, I was amazed. There's the Yamuna River, but in the Yamuna River is an island, and on that island, there's just lotus flowers everywhere growing. So excited at the prospect, all the Sakis dressed Sri Radha like what? Like a fragrant, blooming lotus flower. And under the cover of darkness, they all proceeded to the banks of the nearby Yamuna River, where Krishna was waiting for them on the banks. Actually, the other day, I read another poet's description of those banks of the Yamuna, because everything in Vrindavan is extraordinary. Nothing is ordinary, everything is extraordinary. So I came across a description of the banks of the Yamuna, And that poet, he describes them as a stage upon which Krishna and the gopis often perform their renowned rasa dance. He writes that some banks are open and expansive, while others are secluded and concealed by gardens and groves. He describes that the sand on the Jamuna shore is naturally cooling, like powdered camphor. So when I hear these things, I try to imagine camphor, which we often use in puja. If you powder it, yes, it has a cooling effect. So he describes that the sand on the Yamuna shore is naturally cooling, like powdered camphor. And he goes on, kissed by moonbeams and the touch of Krishna's soft lotus feet, that fine, sparkling powder is made doubly soothing because it's kissed by moonbeams and the touch of Krishna's lotus feet. That powder, the sand, it becomes doubly soothing. This is the way in which we have to engage our minds. So he goes on to describe that the dark water of the Jamuna river is pleasing to the touch, and its current gently massages one's body, and it varies in depth. Here's a detail. How deep is the Jamuna river? It varies in depth, reaching in some places to the knees, and in other places to the navel, to your chest, or up to your neck. And he describes colorful lotuses like the red Kalara, or the white Pundarika, and the blue Indivara, and the golden Nalini dance upon the waves of the river. There's lotus flowers there, and the river is flowing. It appears that all these flowers are dancing. And not only that, but they're scenting the water with their pollen and attracting playful honeybees. Honeybees are coming around this, wow, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki. Now, back to Surdas, that pastime he's describing. Surdas goes on to explain that as soon as Yamuna Devi personified saw Shri Radha and Krishna there, and the gopis on the banks of the Jamuna, at the dock actually ready to take a boat to the island of lotuses, she came walking on top of her waves. Yamuna Devi seeing all these Krishna and Radha and the gopis, so she came to receive Shri Radha, walking on the top of her waves. And she offered a variety of lotuses to Shri Radha to welcome her. Just see how often the lotus is depicted in these pastimes. Then Radha and Krishna, according to Surdas, accompanied by all the gopis, they boarded the boat, and he describes they sailed towards the island of lotuses. Wow. They sailed. The beautiful billowing sail. Where are they going? To an island of lotuses. And upon arriving, Yamuna Devi herself, she was there to welcome everybody. And then she took them to rest and relax, where? Under a huge umbrella made of lotuses and their stems. Now in your mind's eye, try to see that. On the island of lotuses, there's an umbrella, and it's made of beautiful, different colored and different scented lotuses and their stems, and they were resting there. So then they enjoyed delicious foodstuffs that were served to them by younger gopis called manjaris. And at that point, Radha and Krishna, they began enacting the main pastime for the night, which was what? A drama entitled The Lotus and the Bumblebee. Someday some devotee can make a film, and it can be entitled The Lotus and the Bumblebee. And in this drama, which played out during the entire night, Radha, it's a very simple drama, but the beauty is not only the simplicity, but the extreme deep devotion that overwhelmed everyone. Radha would throw a lotus flower, because the island's full of lotuses, into the Jamuna, and it's described Bumblebee Krishna, because bumblebees like lotus flowers. Bumblebee Krishna would swim out, grab that lotus flower, and then come back and offer the same lotus flower to the lotus feet, the red lac lotus feet of his beloved Sri Radha. So Surdas says that towards the end of the night, there was this enormous pile of all the colors in the rainbow and more. Beautiful lotus flowers, each of them with a different scented perfume, because they're all unique in their own way, decorating the beautiful feet of Vrindavan's queen, Srimati Radharani. And that alone gave the greatest pleasure to all of her gopi girlfriends, to see her glorified in that way, and to see Krishna controlled by her prem bhakti, her love for him and his love for her. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki. So then, at the first rays of dawn, as the first rays of dawn started to appear, everyone got back into the boat and sailed to the shore of the Jamuna River. And arriving, everyone quickly departed for their respective homes. Hare Krishna. That is the pastime. So beautiful. Thank you, Surdas. So we have many more lotus flower pastimes to share with you, and we'll continue next week. Somehow I made it to this point with my cold. I'm very happy I did so. But for now, we can finish this lecture with some words from our beloved Srila Prabhupada. Perfect way to finish. We will quote chapter 5 of Teachings of Queen Kunti, which is a compilation of Srila Prabhupada's lectures. Therein we hear Srila Prabhupada said, so here in these prayers, Queen Kunti Devi, a great devotee, is giving us an opportunity to become Krishna conscious simply by concentrating our mind on Pankaja, the lotus flower. Panka means mud, and Ja means generate. Although the lotus flower is generated from mud, it is a most important flower, and Krishna likes it very much. Kunti Devi therefore describes all the parts of Krishna's body with reference to lotus flowers, so that as soon as one sees a lotus flower, one will immediately think of Krishna. Oh, Krishna's navel is just like a lotus, and from Krishna's navel grew the stem of the lotus upon which Brahma, the creator of this universe, was born. The universe includes so many planets, seas, mountains, and cities with motor cars and other paraphernalia, but the entire universe began from that lotus. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. So we'll finish there, and we'll be back in a week. I hope during the week you can remember some of the glories of the lotus flowers and how they play an integral part of Radha and Krishna's leelas or pastimes. And that will help stimulate our love for the divine couple. Shishi Gauranitai ki, Shishi Krishna Balaram ki, Shishi Radha Samasundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani ki, Mayapur Dhama ki, Shishi Gauranitai ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Jai Jai Sisi Radhe, Shan. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. All glories to Vrindavan's lotus flowers. Hare Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome back once again to our ever ongoing series on the glories of our beloved Shri Vrindavan Dham. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarani. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Excuse me, I still have my cold. So we are continuing with our mini-series on stimulation for ecstatic love, and this will be part 14. In our last lecture, we discussed the glories of the lotus flower in Radha and Krishna's pastimes, and I'd like to continue with the same theme today. Last Friday, we finished our lecture by sharing the poet Surdasa's Kamal Ki Chatri, wherein he wrote about an island of lotuses. You remember? An island of lotus flowers in the middle of the Jamuna River, where Radha and Krishna enjoyed very sweet, loving pastimes. So today, I'd like to begin by discussing not an island of lotuses, but an entire forest of lotuses. Yes, a forest of lotuses in our beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. It's the forest of Kumudavan. We touched on it briefly 2 years ago, but since then we've discovered more nectar about this very unique forest of lotus flowers. So Kumudavan is actually mentioned in Braj Bhakti Vilas 972, where it said, I offer my repeated obeisances to the delightful forest named Kumudavan that bestows a variety of joys, a variety of joys. Obeisances to this forest decorated with various lilies and lotus flowers. Now Kumudavan is also mentioned in Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Navadvip Dham Mahatmya. It's in chapter 11, verse 67, where he says, Shri Kumudavan Krishna Saki Gana Thane Apa Rane Kare Lila Agiya Ko Charane, Bengali. Krishna was tending cows and playing with his friends in Sri Kumudavan in the afternoon. So it's mentioned there. Now, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada also mentions Kumudavan in Mathura Mahatmya. Mathura Mahatmya. It's text 336. And therein he's quoting actually from the Adi Varaha Purana. He writes, the third forest is transcendental Kumudavan. O goddess, a person who goes there attains all success. So again, he's quoting from the Adi Varaha Purana. I also learned by researching that the Kumudavan forest is the smallest forest in all of Vrindavan. It must be pretty small. We've discussed many times, there's 12 main forests, and then there's sub-forests, and sub-sub-forests, and sub-sub ad infinitum. But the tiniest forest in all of Vrindavan is Kumudavan, a forest of lotus flowers. Actually, it has a circumference of only 1 kilometer. Now, Kumudavan forest derives its name, obviously, from the lotus flowers there, but specifically night-blooming lotuses that grow there. It's unique for its night-blooming lotuses. They are called Kumuda lotuses. The unique feature of the Kumuda lotus is that it's what's closed in the daytime, and it opens up at night when the moon appears. As the sun causes most flowers to open up in the daytime, moonlight causes the Kumuda, the night-blooming lotus, to open at night. As a result, amongst many varieties of lotus flowers, the Kumuda lotus is identified with the moon, so much so that it lends its name to moonlight, called Kumodi in Sanskrit. The moon is also sometimes referred to as Kumuda Bandhu, which means Kumuda's friend, the friend of the lotus. So generally, Kumuda flowers in Kumudavan are described as white-colored. These night-blooming lotuses are white-colored, so much so that many poets say that a white swan hiding amongst the clusters of white Kamuda flowers in a lake at Vrindavan can be perceived only by its song, because it looks so much, the white swans look so much like the Kamuda flowers, you can't tell the difference. It can only be perceived when it sings. Poets also describe the white Kamudas as, how does it said, the smile of autumn, as well as the complexion of Lord Balaram. So these night-blooming lotuses are very special in Vrindavan. Now again, these flowers only bloom at night, and so when dawn arrives, with the rising of the sun, the Kamuda flowers, they close up. And thus, it's said no one can appreciate their beauty anymore. Now I found a famous poet, his name is Bhatti, and he, in his poetry, he sympathizes with the disappearance of these special lotus flowers at dawn in one of his poems. It's very beautiful. He writes, "As day broke, a tree on the river bank shed drops of clear water from the tips of its leaves. It resonated with bird songs and seemed to weep for the Kamuda with tears formed from the night's dew." I'll recite that again. "As day broke, a tree on the riverbank shed drops of clear water from the tips of its leaves. It resonated with bird songs and seemed to weep for the Kamuda with tears formed from the night's dew." Lamenting because you can't see this beautiful flower, and it's closed up in the daytime. Now, the gopis, the Braja gopis, also referred to these Kamuda flowers when they asked Uddhava, who was visiting them after Krishna left Vrindavan, whether Krishna remembered their pastimes amongst the Kamudas, amongst the lotus flowers. It's Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-43. They said, "Uddhava, does Krishna recall those nights in the Vrindavan forest, lovely with Kamuda, lotuses, jasmine, and the bright moon? As we glorified his charming pastimes, he enjoyed with us his beloved girlfriends in the circle of the rasa dance, which resounded with the music of ankle bells." So they referred to the Kamuda. Though not visible now, Shastra says that the Jamuna River once flowed through Vrindavan in a winding course, nourishing the Kamuda lotuses that flourished there. So now we'll share a pastime described by a devotee, a Vaishnava poet named Nandadas, who, how could you say it poetically, penned a number of Radha and Krishna's pastimes using the analogy of the lotus. Now, Nandadas was a medieval Brajbhasa poet who used to live at the base of Govardhan Hill, and actually he served as a pujari for the Gopal deity that was discovered by Madhavinda Puri, special personality. And I was reading in the Vrindavan Research Institute, he wrote hundreds of poems. In his book, Nandadas Kepad, we find the following pastime called Dinta Viraha Kopad. Dinta Viraha Kopad. It's still sung, because pastimes are sung in Braj. It's still sung in Nathdwar, in Udaipur, Rajasthan, where the deity of Gopal is now being served. Of course, nowadays he's known as Srinathji, but originally when Madhavinda Puri found him, he was called Gopal. It's a pastime about Vipralamba Bhav, feelings of separation between Radha and Krishna. Now I must say, it's quite deep. It's quite deep. But with Srila Prabhupada's direction, we can discuss it. Srila Prabhupada himself said the same in a Radhastami lecture he gave in London on September 18th, 1969. I heard it the other night. Therein he said, "These are, of course, very transcendental topics. It's a great science. Only one who is advanced in Krishna consciousness and well conversant with the Shastras can understand such things. But still, we can discuss from the Shastras. When Krishna wanted to understand himself, Prabhupada went on, he adopted the tendency, he uses the word tendency of Srimati Radharani, and that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Radha Bhava Jyoti Suva Litam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, but he has accepted the propensities of Radharani. As Radharani is always feeling separation from Krishna, similarly, in the position of Radharani, Lord Chaitanya was feeling separation from Krishna. That is the teaching of Lord Chaitanya. Feelings of separation, not meeting. The process of devotional service taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his disciplic succession is how to feel separation from Krishna. Prabhupada continues, and that is Radharani's position, always feeling that separation. So yes, deep subject matters, but we see here, even in the very beginning of the movement, Prabhupada was preparing us, setting the foundation, so that we can go on, and hopefully by his mercy one day, understand these things, and we understand them by discussing them. So our poet Nanda Das, he writes that when Radha and Krishna were young, Mother Purnamasi was always making special arrangements for their meeting. And when that was set up, when a meeting was set up, she would send messengers with messages to inform Radha and Krishna about the meetings. Something really interesting, I was reading that she actually had, it's described, an army of messengers. Purnamasi has an army of messengers to send messages between Radha and Krishna. Very interesting messengers. Amongst them are parrots, pigeons, white eagles, female monkeys, manjaris, dutikas. Dutikas is female attendants. And shehacharis. Shehacharis means the best friends of the gopis. They also take messages. And anucharikas. Anucharikas means servants of the gopis. And then dasis. That's described as servants of the servants of gopis. Then there's Vrindadevi, who takes messages. Then, it's very nice, another group of messengers are the stars in the sky above Braj. They act as messengers. The stars in the sky above Braj. Somehow they take messages. And last but not least, the lotuses of Braj. They also act as messengers. And we'll see how so in this pastime. So the poet Nanda Das, he says, one day, Lalita Saki said to Radha, "My dear Radha, by the arrangement of Purnamasi, a meeting has been arranged for you with Krishna in a beautiful forested area of Braj, down by the Jamuna River." But Shri Radha said, "Oh Lalita, no, I'm a pious girl. I cannot go to meet him under these circumstances." Then Radha paused and said, "Yet, at the same time, I want very much to meet him." So Lalita said, "My dear Radha, your words appear contradictory. Will you go or not go? You have to make up your mind. Will you go or will you not go?" So then Radha replied, "My dear Lalita Saki, you do not understand." This is so beautiful. You do not understand the language of love. It is so complicated. In love, saying no is a yes. Night is daylight. Losing a game is winning. And the thorns of Braj are the lotuses of pleasure. This is a market of rasa. One who enters it gets stuck life after life. In love language, crying means laughing. Insulting means showing respect. Giving is receiving, and speaking is remaining silent. O Lalita, love of Krishna is the cooling sun, frozen ice, and the bright night of pain and separation. What can I say? That could be analyzed by pure devotees of the Lord, for hours and days and weeks and months. It's so nice. Then Lalita smiled, and with tears in her eyes, she said, Sri Radha, I understand, so let me take you to a kunja on the banks of the Jamuna River, where Krishna is sitting and playing his flute, where a cool breeze removes the heat of separation and makes everyone dance in ecstasy. We sometimes say that in the spiritual world, every step is a dance, every word is a song, and there's a festival every day. So hearing these conversations, a word is like a song. So Sri Radha agreed, and she walked with the Lalita for some time, and eventually they came to a ghat on the banks of the Jamuna River, where they could see Krishna playing his flute some distance away in a kunj, also on the banks of the Jamuna River. But instead of proceeding, Sri Radha was just mesmerized by this beautiful darshan of Krishna from a distance, so she couldn't move any further. Then, looking up and seeing Sri Radha, gazing at him from far away, Krishna, he took the hand of Madhu Mangal. And the poet says, Krishna said to Madhu Mangal, Madhu, please, consider a way that I can send a message from my heart to the heart of Sri Radha. So Madhu Mangal, who we often, who's described as a funny Brahmin boy, but actually he's very dear to Krishna. He's one of those special cowherd boys who actually takes messages between Radha and Krishna himself. So he's in a very deep relationship with Krishna. So Madhu Mangal, he thought for a moment. Then he stood up and he went down to the nearby Jamuna River, where he picked a 1,000-petaled lotus flower. When I read that, I was like, wow. Madhu Mangal picked in the Jamuna River a 1,000-petaled lotus flower. It's called Shastra Dhala Kamala. Shastra Dhala Kamala. And when he came back, somehow he presented this 1,000-petaled lotus flower to Krishna. So Krishna then proceeded to write messages on each one of the 1,000 petals of the lotus. The ink he used was from bees who drank the nectar of sweet lotuses. And he wrote with a quill, I don't want to say pen, he wrote with a quill made of one of Kamadev's arrows, upon which was stamped the moon as a seal. Then Krishna stood up, went to the Jamuna, and very carefully placed this letter on the flowing waves of the river, where this message, we heard how lotus flowers can be messages, so here's 1,000 messages on a 1,000-petal lotus flower. This message, this lotus flower, it floated down and reached the ghat where Sri Radha was sitting with Lalita and several other gopis. One of those gopis who had come was Vishakasaki. And when Vishakasaki saw the 1,000-petaled lotus, she went and retrieved it and brought it to Sri Radha. We're looking deep into this science of sending messages. And in a very excited mood, Sri Radha then read every word of the entire 1,000-petaled lotus 1,000 times. She read every word of the entire 1,000-petaled lotus 1,000 times. And when she finished, she turned to her friends and she said, famously, I'd like to say, may the sound of these words, filled with love and devotion, resonate here in Sri Vrindavan Dham forever and forevermore. May the sound of these words, filled with love and devotion, resonate here in Sri Vrindavan Dham forever and forevermore. So the poet Nandadas says, One who sits on the bank of the Jamuna in the moonlight, full of devotion and love, can hear the Jamuna reverberate with the sound of the words of Lila Ambuja, the lotus of divine pastimes. That lotus flower floated down and sent this message. So he's saying, one who sits on the bank of the Jamuna in the moonlight, full of devotion and love, can hear the Jamuna reverberate with the sound of the words of what? Lila Ambuja, the lotus of divine pastimes, which spreads the message of love to one and all forever and forevermore. So our gratitude to that poet Nanda Das, whose words and realizations have hopefully brought us closer to the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna and Shri Vrindavan Dham. So one more lotus pastime. I found this in my godbrother Shivaram Swami's Nava Braja Mahima, the book that he wrote, a pastime which he retold from the Sangita Madhava, chapter 8 by Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati. It's a beautiful lotus pastime. So one time he describes anticipating where Srimati Radharani would bathe in the Jamuna, Krishna hid himself within a cluster of blue lotus flowers in the river and waited until Radharani and her friends arrived at a nearby bathing.
Govinda, Adi Purusha, Bhajami, Vedam Kamanta Maravinda Layakashami, Bhagavatam Ramasikam Buddhasundaram, Kandarvakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shubha Govinda Adi Purusha Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakhe Briyaveti Manati Vashanti Kanti Kayanti Dhiram Jagranti Ananda Chimaya Sadhu Jara Vigrahasya Govinda Adi Purusha Namaham Bhajami. Om Shobhadaya Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Krishna Krishna Hare Radhe Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswate Gautavani Prachariye Vishesha Shundavadi Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare
Vatsala Sri Gaurahari Vajabhakata Vatsala Sri Gaurahari Sri Gaurahari Sahi Goshta Bihari Nanda Jasomati Chitahari Dhira Holo Damodara Ishaye Kana Bhoga Mandire Bashi Karaha Bojana Nandirani Deshi Bashi Paise sari sari. Shukta shakhari vajinalita kushmanda. Dalidana dugda tumi dadi mocha kanda. Mudabora mash boda roti kabritana. Saskuli pistaka kir kuli payasana. Kapura amrita keli ramba kirashara. Amrita rasalama dvadasha pakora. Luci sinisar puri ladu rasabali. Bhojana kore na Krishna hoye kutuhali. Radhikara pakayana bibida bhanjana. Paramayanande Krishna kore na bhojana. Chale bale ladu khai Sri Madhu Mangala. Bagala bajaya deya hari bolo. Radhikari gani heri nayane rakone. Tripta hoye khai Krishna Jasoda Bhavani. Bhojanande piye Krishna Subhasita Bari. Sabe mukha prakaloy hore sari sari. Asta mukha prakaliya jata sakagane. Anande vishrama kore baladeva sane. Jambula rasalane tambula masala. Tahake Krishna Chandra suke nijadeva. Vishalaka shiki pucha chamara dulaya. Apurva sayaya Krishna suke nirayaya. Yasomati anga priye danishtayanito. Shri Krishna prasad radha unje hoye prito. Lalikari sakti gana avashesha paya. Mane mane sukhe radha Krishna guna gaya. Hari lila ekmatra jahara pramoda. Bhogarati gai takur bhakti vinoda. Kata vatsala Sri Gaura Hari. Bhajapa kata vatsala Sri Gaura Hari. Sri Gaura Hari Sahi Gosta Bihari. Sri Gaura Hari Sahi Gosta Bihari. Nanda Jasomati